Kang Min-suk did not believe in letting strangers into his world. His life was calculated, controlled, and fenced by high expectations and silent boundaries. As the head of Kang Group, the last thing he ever tolerated was chaos, and the events of the past weeks had been nothing short of that. Anonymous threats had reached his sister, and now, protecting her became more than a duty, it became personal. He sat behind his obsidian desk, sharp-suited as always, his fingers steepled under his chin. The meeting had been scheduled for noon. It was 11:59 when the door opened without a knock. She walked in like she owned the floor, not in arrogance. No, it was something deeper. The way her tall, poised figure filled the room. The authority in her stride. The heavy boots echoing against the marble. She was different. Starkly different. Kang Min-suk, she asked, her voice a rich, deep timbre that neither bowed nor wavered. He glanced up from his desk, taking her in. Dark skin that gleamed like polished onyx under the harsh light, tightly coiled hair swept back into a high, no-nonsense ponytail, and a gaze that did not flinch. "Yes," he said coolly. "You're early. Or you're late," she replied. Min-suk blinked once. Bold. She stepped forward and placed a slim, black folder on his desk. Inside were her credentials, military grade, international security, languages spoken, combat mastery. He didn't need to read the rest. It was clear she wasn't here to impress him. Her name was Zara Okoye. "I don't care what you think of me, Mr. Kang," she continued, cutting through the static tension. "Your sister's safety is my only concern. You hired me. Let me do my job." Min-suk leaned back, the leather chair sighing under him. He didn't like her already. He also couldn't stop staring. "I didn't hire you. My head of security did," he corrected, voice clipped, businesslike. "But if you are to protect Sumin, you will answer directly to me." Her lips twitched into the barest hint of a smirk, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Understood. He wanted to unsettle her. He wanted to see her crack. But Zara Okoye was a fortress. When she turned to leave, something unexpected stirred inside him. An odd irritation, or was it something far more dangerous? The door clicked shut behind her, and for the first time in years, Kang Min-suk sat in his office longer than necessary, staring at the space where she had stood. He told himself it was because she was reckless, because she was unfamiliar, because she was a risk. But as the hours passed, and he caught glimpses of her silently trailing Sumin through the garden, shadows hugging her like a second skin, he realized something else. He couldn't look away. And Kang Min-suk hated that more than anything. However, Zara kept her promise. She blended into the shadows like she was born for them, present yet invisible, professional to a fault. She guarded Sumin with precision, never letting her out of her sight, analyzing every room before they entered, memorizing every face that got too close. But even perfection grated on Min-suk's nerves. He watched from behind the tall glass of his home office as Zara walked 2 steps behind Sumin in the garden. His sister, dressed in a loose cardigan and carefree smile, seemed lighter these days, as though the threats on her life hadn't pierced her bubble. Was it Zara? Was it the way she made people feel like she had them covered no matter what? Even Min-suk couldn't deny the effect she had on the atmosphere, steady and calming like a silent wolf watching over its pack. But Min-suk wasn't impressed. He hated that his sister was laughing more. It felt reckless, dangerous. He had built his empire on keeping the world at a safe distance, and here this woman was, peeling that carefully constructed armor with her mere presence. He didn't trust her. That night, after Sumin retired to her room, Min-suk found Zara reviewing surveillance footage in the security wing. She didn't flinch when he entered. "You're thorough," he said coldly, standing too close behind her. "It's my job to be," she replied without looking at him. There it was again. That impenetrable calm. That refusal to be intimidated. It rattled him more than he'd admit. "She's too comfortable around you," he bit out, his voice edged with something that sounded suspiciously like jealousy. "It makes her careless." Zara finally turned to him then. Her gaze landed directly on his. There was no fear, no submission. Only quiet challenge. "Or maybe," she said slowly, "she finally feels safe." Min-suk clenched his jaw. "Don't confuse your job with your place, Zara." A muscle flickered in her jaw, but she only said, "Duly noted, sir," and turned back to the monitors. Min-suk left her there, but sleep evaded him that night. Her words echoed in his head like a tune he couldn't silence. Maybe she finally feels safe. And that unsettled him more than any threat could. The next day, it was raining. Min-suk stood at the balcony, overlooking the city skyline when he saw it, a moment he didn't expect. Zara was sparring alone in the gym yard. Her body moved like poetry, strong, fluid, deadly. Every kick, every pivot, every strike, executed with silent elegance. Her skin gleamed under the rain, drops sliding down her arms, her braids whipping behind her like a warrior goddess summoned from some forgotten legend. Min-suk gripped the cold rail. She was beautiful. Not in the way society painted beauty. She was fierce beauty. Beauty that dared you to look, dared you to come closer knowing you'd never conquer it. When she caught him watching, their eyes locked. For a long, breathless second, neither looked away. And in that fragile space between silence and thunder, something shifted. Unspoken, dangerous, real. She was supposed to guard his sister, but she was becoming a threat to him. A threat he couldn't fight with business meetings or contracts. That evening, Sumin giggled as Zara taught her how to disarm an attacker using nothing but a scarf. "You're really something, Zarayuni," Sumin laughed, swinging the silk awkwardly. Min-suk leaned against the doorway, unseen. He wasn't watching his sister anymore. He was watching Zara, how she laughed softly now, how her stern features softened around Sumin. It made his chest tighten in ways he didn't like. Later, as she walked past him in the hallway, Zara paused. Their eyes met again, too close this time, breaths mingling in the tight space. "Don't look at me like that," she said softly, but her voice lacked the sharpness it once held. "Like what?" His voice was lower now, roughened by something he didn't want to name. "Like I'm the threat you can't control." He didn't reply. Because it was true. Days bled into nights, but the tension between Zara and Kang Min-suk didn't fade. If anything, it thickened, like the heavy air before a storm. It lingered in the silent corners of the estate, in the way their eyes brushed but never fully met, in the stolen glances they both pretended not to notice. Min-suk hated it. Hated how his attention drifted toward her when she entered a room. Hated how he noticed the delicate strength in the way she held a glass, or how the curve of her lips lingered longer in his mind than it should. He told himself it was because she was a threat. But his heart told him otherwise. It wasn't until the night Sumin insisted on going to an exclusive gala that the dam began to crack. "I'll only go if Zara comes with me," Sumin pouted, her arms crossed like a stubborn child. "You don't need a shadow at your side in a public event," Min-suk argued, but his sister wouldn't budge. Zara entered the room, arms folded behind her back, always composed. "If she wants me there, I'll go," she said calmly, but her gaze flicked toward Min-suk with that same challenging steadiness that made him want to unravel. And so, Zara accompanied Sumin. But it wasn't Sumin who made heads turn as they entered the grand ballroom. It was Zara. In a simple black gown Sumin had insisted she wear for the event, Zara stole the air from the room. Her deep skin glowed under the chandelier lights, her poise commanding. She stood apart from the glittering guests, yet somehow above them all. Min-suk couldn't take his eyes off her. Every smile she politely offered to strangers, every movement of her shoulders beneath the satin, only pulled him deeper into this dangerous fascination. "What on earth is happening to me?" he muttered inwardly. Later that night, after Sumin had gone up to her room, Min-suk found Zara on the terrace, standing alone, gazing at the city lights. He should have walked away.
Should have kept the distance. But he didn't. You clean up well, he murmured behind her, the words sounding foreign on his tongue. She didn't turn. And you hide your demons well, Kang Min-suk. His breath hitched. He stepped closer, not knowing why. Tell me something, Zara, his voice lowered. What are you more afraid of? Failing at your duty, or what's brewing between us? Finally, she turned, and their faces were inches apart. Her eyes flickered, not with fear, but with something more dangerous. Restraint. There's nothing brewing between us, sir, she said softly, her voice faltering for the first time. But Min-suk didn't believe her. Neither did she. Their breaths mingled, heavy, hesitant, as if both were standing on the edge of something forbidden. A step closer and it would all crumble, their rules, their walls, their duty. You're not supposed to want me, she whispered. He tilted his head, his breath brushing her skin. And yet, here we are. The air thickened. Zara pulled back first, breaking the spell. This is your sister's safe house, Kang Min-suk. Not your hunting ground, she said with a bitter edge, masking the tremor in her tone. And just like that, she vanished into the shadows, leaving him alone with the ache in his chest. He stood there long after she was gone. Because deep inside, he knew something neither of them dared say aloud. He was falling for her. And she was the only battle he wasn't sure he could win. Min-suk tried to convince himself it was a phase. An infatuation born of proximity. But the lies he told himself grew thinner by the day. Everywhere he turned, Zara was there. In the hallway, by his sister's side, in the back seat of his car, and now, dangerously, in his thoughts even when she wasn't. It wasn't her beauty alone. It was the way she moved. Unapologetic. Unbothered. Unreachable. And perhaps that was what drove him mad the most. It started subtly. He began requesting Zara accompany him on errands that didn't require her presence. A meeting at a construction site. An art gallery opening. Private business dinners. She never questioned it. Not directly. But she knew. Her dark eyes always held that quiet, restrained knowing. One night, after a particularly tense dinner where Min-suk barely paid attention to the investors but couldn't stop watching the way Zara quietly stood in the shadows, his carefully built defenses cracked further. You didn't need to stand the entire time, he told her as they drove back in his black sedan. She barely turned. I'm used to it. Sit inside next time. With me. She blinked. That's not part of my job, sir. Min-suk's jaw clenched. Maybe I want to change the rules. A thick silence filled the car. Zara's gaze slid toward him, calm on the surface, but something stirred beneath. Something neither of them dared name. In the days that followed, Min-suk found reasons to linger in rooms longer when Zara was present. He'd offer her coffee she never accepted.
He'd ask about her past, though he knew she guarded it fiercely. And worst of all, he caught himself watching her when she laughed softly at Sumin's jokes, wishing, selfishly, she would laugh like that with him. It was a dangerous game. He told himself it was curiosity, a need to understand the enigma that was Zara. But the truth sat heavy in his chest at night when he lay awake, fists clenched, haunted by her face. He was falling for her. Deep. Hard. In ways that left him breathless. His sister noticed before he admitted it. Kang Min-suk, Sumin teased one afternoon. You stare at Zara like she's the answer to a question you've been asking your whole life. He snapped his gaze toward her, defensive, cold. Don't be ridiculous. But Sumin only giggled, walking off with a knowing smile that unsettled him. That evening, Min-suk found Zara in the garden, standing alone under the moonlight. Her figure was wrapped in black tactical gear, but she looked more like an untouchable goddess than a protector. He approached without thinking. Why do you always stand alone? He asked, his voice low, almost vulnerable. She glanced at him. That's what shadows do. Her reply pierced him deeper than she could imagine. Zara. He stopped himself. What was he doing? She was his employee, his sister's protector. Crossing that line would be unforgivable. But his heart no longer cared about lines. Zara turned fully toward him now, the moonlight illuminating her face, making her dark skin shimmer like polished stone. Her eyes held the same professional calm. But there was something else tonight. Fragility. A rare crack in her otherwise unshakable armor. Don't do this, Min-suk, she whispered. He swallowed hard. She had never used his name like that. Never so raw. So pleading. I can't help it, he confessed finally, stepping closer, dangerously close. You're in my head. Under my skin. I don't know how to turn it off. Her breath hitched. She looked away as if that would make the moment disappear. It's wrong, she whispered. I know. It's reckless. I know that too. Yet neither of them moved. The night pulsed with things unsaid. And though their lips never touched, the distance between them screamed louder than any kiss. Zara pulled away first, her steps heavy, but her walls reforged. I protect your sister, Min-suk. Not this. And with that, she left him alone in the garden, battling his demons. Min-suk clenched his fists, staring at the space where she'd stood. He couldn't deny it anymore. He was drowning in her. And if he wasn't careful, he'd cross a line he could never return from. But God help him, part of him wanted to. The breaking point came on an ordinary Thursday night. Min-suk had been restless the entire day, his mind circling Zara like a hawk, his body aching from the weight of wanting her, but forcing himself to behave as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. And that night, the universe, cruel, twisted thing that it was, pushed them both over the cliff they had been dancing around. It started with an anonymous message, a video sent to Min-suk's private phone. Soo-min, bound to a chair in an empty warehouse. A masked figure standing behind her, a gun to her head. A cold voice whispering, your enemies never forget. Min-suk's world spun. His heart froze. He couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. It was Zara who studied him. She grabbed his arm firmly, pulling him into reality. We have to move now. Her voice was sharp, commanding. And for once, Min-suk surrendered control entirely to her. They moved like shadows through the city, tracking the signal Zara extracted from the video's metadata. She was fierce, focused, unstoppable. But beneath her cold mask, Min-suk saw it, the flicker of fear. Not for herself. For Soo-min. For him. For them. And that fear only made him fall harder. When they reached the warehouse, it was chaos. Zara took down the guards like a phantom, her movements ruthless, her body poetry in motion. Min-suk followed behind, heart in his throat. When they found Soo-min, she was gagged but alive. Zara freed her, holding her tightly, whispering, "You're safe now." Min-suk rushed to his sister's side, but even as he embraced her, his eyes, his soul, searched for Zara. It wasn't just about protection anymore. It was about something much more dangerous. That night, after Soo-min was safely returned home and surrounded by private security, Min-suk found Zara standing by the balcony of his penthouse. The city lights reflected in her eyes, but she looked distant, lost in a war she didn't show. He approached her slowly, cautiously. "You saved her," he whispered. She didn't turn. "That's my job." No, his voice cracked, raw with emotion. "It's more than that." Zara finally faced him. Her face, always so composed, was trembling now. Not with fear, but something more fragile. Vulnerable. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. Min-suk's breath hitched. "Zara, I tried to keep it professional. I tried to ignore it. But tonight, she swallowed hard. I thought I might lose you. And that terrified me more than anything." Min-suk stepped closer, the air between them electric. "I've been lost in you for weeks," he admitted, his voice breaking. Every second around you feels like I'm fighting myself. Zara's walls crumbled in that moment. Then stop fighting, she whispered. And with that, their restraint snapped. He pulled her into his arms, hugged her like she was a dream come true, and Zara, she clung to him like he was the only thing anchoring her to the earth, and Minsuk knew, in that moment, they had crossed a line neither of them could ever return from. But neither cared. They would figure out the consequences later. For now, they belonged to the fire.